It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, March 7th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that went from having not much to talk about to quite a bit with the Flyers sending Walker to the Avs.
Things are percolating.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, busy day. And, I think that as we were set to record, nothing had happened and then everything happened. So just for timing purposes, should anything else occur, we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, shortly after the Walker deal went through. And the Flyers got in return a 2025 first round pick, which is conditional, top 10 protected. I think with the Avs, fairly safe, along with Ryan Johansson, who is an $8 million depth center for the Avs right now, but the Preds had retained half of that salary. So for the Avs purposes, it's $4 million. The Flyers immediately put Johansson on waivers, which is like, man, rough day, dude. Rough day.
Yeah, he may never report.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I mean, that could be one way out of the contract. I mean, we just don't know if the Flyers are on the hook for $2 million or nothing, and if he'll report. Like all those things, I guess, are kind of up in the air.
Right. So we should find out about that over
but it's
the
a good
next
return.
day.
It is.
Yeah, it is a really good return. And, I would think that the Avs would be okay. So it would be a 2025 first round pick. And I think that pretty much guarantees that the Flyers will have 2 first round picks in this year's draft and next year's, because as we are going to talk about, the Florida Panthers are in really good position right now. And so it looks like the Flyers will get that Florida pick this year.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I think that it's a really good return. I think overall, we'll see how the cap situation works out and what it means for the Flyers. Because to your point, there is one more year on Johansson's deal through next season. So it's not like the most ideal, but I think it may be worth it to deal with that for 1 year, one additional year only, in order to get that additional first round pick.
No, it's worth it. I mean, we were saying on the show, there's no way Walker himself was getting a first round pick. Like we knew that.
Correct.
So this is the only way it could happen was by doing that retention. So yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean the only thing that we don't know, and again, we know the Nick Seeler deal is in play. I already think it's for more than what I would give him. Probably, it could be much more. And then there's rumors. Bruce Garrioch said the Flyers are in on Jacob Chikrin. Like if these things all occur, even though Chikrin's only got 2 years left on his deal, there will be zero space for the young defenseman. And then that part that I said the other day that, hey, maybe they don't have any faith in these guys, maybe holds true. Now, does that mean they're going to trade these guys? Because teams would want them. But the point is, you got 3. And if you're deciding that you don't really have any defenseman that you really like until Bonk comes along, it's a risky proposition. That's all I could say.
It is. And, I would caution the Flyers in getting Chikrin. I just, compared to what the Flyers could have in their system, especially with Drysdale, should he remain healthy, I think, Chikrin has had his own injury issues.
He has.
And so I'm not sure you want 2 guys like that at the same time.
I agree. I don't disagree. He's a very good defenseman. I don't think he's what he was 2 years ago, and I don't
Yeah.
know what he's gonna be in the future. I know he's solid, and I know he's, what, like, Keith Jones looks for, um, being rough and tough and all that, but, yeah, this is we're starting to get into riskier territory, and, uh, we'll see. We'll see if this comes through, but if this comes through, you know, forget about talking about a rebuild because then that doesn't exist.
Right. And, or it's like, is it a rebuild or isn't it? Because the Walker deal is good and is rebuild oriented, right? And so,
Yes.
but a potential longer term contract that's expensive for Sealer and acquiring Chikrin is not.
No,
So
and we don't know what they're gonna do to get Chikrin. They may be moving one of these first right away.
who knows? So
Right.
I think that, that's a put a pin in it in that
Yes.
conversation
Yeah.
for
That's for the
sure.
down the road.
As far as the Sealer conversation goes, I do think, we've been talking about it that they were unlikely to trade him at all.
I
Torts
said they
loves
weren't.
him.
I
Yeah.
just only because I
You
know how much the coach values him. The minute
Mhm.
he even today, he went way overboard again on what he's worth, but we have to talk about what he's really worth around the league, not to John Tortorella. He's a really good shot blocker. He plays minutes. He'll fight once in a while, and he'll get some pucks through the net. If they pay him, let's say the reported 3.3, that is at the very high end of what you would call a shot blocking defenseman. And I'm sorry, I just would not do it. And I definitely would not do it for more than 2 years. But again, if their plan is, hey, we want to have all of these veteran defensemen around, and if one of these young guys just is lucky to make it, then that's on them. I wouldn't do that because the shot blocking defensemen, the ones that block the way Sealer do, it's hard to last in this league doing that for any length of time. That's why I would never give him more than 2 years. And he's earned 2 years, and he's earned 2 years at a higher rate. Like I would have, but again, 3.3 is like I'm out at 3. So 3.3 is just forget it for me.
Right. I think like 3.3 is a 2-year deal max,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But if it's like 2.8, okay, throw him an extra year. But I do think that given, the trade for Walker and the injury situation, it does put the blue line in an interesting, at least probably somewhat temporary position with Drysdale, Ristolainen, and Sealer out, right?
Right.
So Adam Jennings got the call up,
He did.
which amazing. Love that.
Yeah, we
Apparently
do.
it
We've been talking about it for a while, like he deserves it.
Right. I thought that given history, they would call up Belpedio or Mete, but when we talked about that
Yeah,
yesterday,
we did.
but apparently it was Danny Briere and Ian LePerriere's decision entirely. The Torts had nothing to do with it. And so Jennings got the call up. He's been playing real well overall and
Yeah,
very
we
well
felt like he's
deserved.
had a real good year. I know there's this talk like, hey, he's doing better lately. He's had a real good year. He's one of the few that's had a very
Yeah.
good season. So I don't
Yeah.
want people to think he's only done something lately and that's what's worthy of a call up. The reason
Right.
again, there was a reason to think that the veterans might get it first in the AHL, but we thought weeks ago that Jennings needed to get called up to get a carrot. I remember that was probably 4 or 5 episodes ago. We were talking about that. And at least it looks like he's going to get that.
Right, absolutely. And it looks like it's possible that Jennings and Addard, a pairing of frequency in Lehigh Valley, could get an NHL start together because of the Walker trade and Sealer being out. So if you have York and Sandheim as a pairing, Stahl and Zamula as a pairing, then you have Jennings and Addard. And like, wouldn't that be swell?
We think that, but John's not going to do that.
Well, he might split them up, I guess,
He
and
will.
and put
Only
Jennings
because
with
he's John.
Zamula maybe.
I would do it. I would have them be the bottom pairing, and because this is something that I talked about, like, to me, this is exactly what you'd want to do,
Yep.
is have those guys together because they have familiarity,
Yeah.
but I don't
Yeah.
know if he'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, both of them, Jennings had one NHL game and Adders had a few.
Right.
So, it's not like this is either of their first NHL
No.
game. I say put them out there together because of the history and the
Yeah.
comfort
I
that
say that too.
they have together. Other than that, in practice, Travis Konecny's in a regular jersey. Still not sure if he's ready to go, but at least he was out of the
Okay.
non-contact
He's getting closer.
situation. Yeah, getting closer. Scott Lawton wasn't there because he's sick. Cam York had a maintenance day. Torts mentioned
You have to
specifically.
put, I mean, I don't want to be this guy, but you have to put sick in quotes. You do, because it's getting close to trade deadline, and it is still possible he gets traded. And this is a way of keeping him out of the lineup in case the offers get sweeter on Scott Lawton.
The more important thing that Torts talked about, the thing that we've repeated, and he is actually uh, on the nose about, is never giving up on defensemen in terms of your prospects, because you never know when they're going to click. And
Mhm.
so he's, saying, look, all of these injuries are bad, but it's giving me an opportunity to see some of these younger guys. And, and especially with defensemen, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt and more time.
Right. So this is where I have a quandary, because if he sees Jennings and loves him, and then realizes he's got similar talent to Sealer, then what? Like, you've already spent the money on Sealer, so like, are you gonna shoehorn in Jennings? Probably not. But I'm just saying, like, that's the potential downside. Now, again, it's all upside for Jennings, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, all of this means some changes to the lineup, and I think an interesting, next game for the Flyers. We still don't really know what the roster is going to look like because there's more time left before the trade deadline. But we're going to talk about the Panthers coming up next.
We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of Locked On NHL will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
On tomorrow's show, we will talk more trade deadline news and talk about this Panthers game that we're about to preview. And the Florida Panthers are doing their own trade day activities, it seems. They traded for Vladimir Tarasenko, so they're loading up as well.
They are. I mean, I didn't love what Tarasenko did last year with the Rangers. He's had a pretty good regular season, but Florida's not the kind of team that has to rely on him. So that's probably good for
Mhm.
them because of that. If they had to rely on him, I'd say, I don't think he's the guy anymore. And if you notice, the return wasn't super fantastic. It was decent. But, if this was Tarasenko at the time that he was winning the Stanley Cup with the Blues, you'd be talking about a much more robust return. So I think, there are teams that are down on him, but when you put him in a talented lineup like that, he's going to do something.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And that just another weapon in the arsenal for
Correct.
them. And they could do it without him, but why not with him?
Right. Right.
So their last game, they beat the Devils 5-3 in Travis Green's head coaching debut for the Devils. Not a great day for him,
No, and
but
that ship is continuing to take on water. So
oh my God, what a mess! What a
it's a
mess!
mess. It's like the SS New Jersey, and it's going down, man.
Oh man. Nick Cousins, our old pal, got 2 goals in that game. Sam Reinhart, who's having just a gangbuster
Amazing year.
season, 45th goal of the
Oof.
season for him. He's gonna be tough to stop. The Panthers are on a 6-game win streak, 9-1 in their last 10. Current Stanley Cup favorite and top of the league right now. They've got 3 points over the Bruins with a game in hand on them in the Atlantic right now. So, not hard at all. Not a little bit.
No, I mean, they're rolling. I think they're 12-1 in their last 13 also. But
Oh
listen,
my
I mean,
God.
when you're winning like that, there is always an opportunity for them to stumble for a game. And that's what you have to hope for. Maybe if Tarasenko gets in there that quick, he causes some issues. They have to make some shifts. They have to change some lines, and all of a sudden maybe they're a little off their game. That's your best chance. I mean, Bob's been really good all year. I've watched him. He looks as good as he has ever looked, comfortable and otherwise. Uh, they have a lot of weapons, man. They have lines. They're down the middle, center wise, maybe the best in the league. They they have lines that are just hard to defend. Like their first
Yeah.
couple of lines, Carter Verhaeghe is another guy that just sort of sits in the weeds. Sam Bennett plays a good, tough game. He maybe isn't scoring at the rate that people thought he would be when he got drafted, but he's still a really good player. They just have a lot of really good players.
Yeah, and last time, when we saw the Panthers, which wasn't that long ago,
No,
and we talked about Evan Rodriguez, and, he's a bottom sixer for them, but is extremely effective, and a player I loved even when he was on the Pens. I know, hard to believe, but, I
no,
really
he's a
wanted him
fun
on the
guy to watch.
Flyers.
He's always a guy that scores shorthanded goals. He's a guy that's a lot of effort. No, he's fun to watch out there. I admit it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is interesting that when you look at them against the Flyers, it actually is a really good matchup in terms of skill. I think that, obviously without Walker there, the blue line changes a
Mhm.
little bit. But I do think that, there are some similarities there where both teams take a ton of shots.
Yeah,
Both of them are pretty quick teams. Both of them are solid in terms of zone time and possession metrics. But the Panthers are just like, in terms of where the rubber meets the road, the Panthers are just an elite team.
yeah,
So the
they are.
matchup could be there on the right day. It's just like, are the Flyers going to have that right day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're hoping for. I mean, they're well coached. Uh, they have physicality too. There's very little that they're missing. I mean, you could find like any other team some weaknesses. You say, well, I don't like their third pairing. Okay, I mean that's a lot of teams, but uh,
Mhm.
they're awfully tough. Barkov makes it really hard because whoever you match up against him face up wise, that's a challenge of the year. And then he's also going to hurt you shorthanded too because he's another one of those guys that makes things happen. He's having another really good year, like to really show that he's an elite center. So good luck against this team. That's all you could say. Just play your best game and see what happens. Like that's what they have to do. They just have to limit mistakes. Mistakes are going to end up in the back of the net. Uh, as good as their power play is, as good as the Flyers PK is, some of those are going to go in if they give them too many power plays. So that's really just keep them off the power play and just keep them out of the box. Stay out of the box as much as possible. That's as good as good as it gets as far as just trying to minimize things. And then maybe you get an opportunity or a lucky bounce or even just a dirty goal.
Yeah, looking over at Money Puck, their goals against per 60 in all situations is 1.73.
Yeah,
That's absurd.
it is absurd. It
Like,
really is.
it's gonna be tough to score goals against this team. And I think it's a lot to do with their structure, like, they just don't let you through.
Right.
And
Right. They'll keep you to the outside. They're strong. They're great skaters. They do hold on to the puck. Like they have lines that will cycle it too. And that's the thing. The Flyers do have to figure out how to hold the puck longer in their offensive end and try and set up quality shots. I wouldn't worry about winning the shot battle, as you know. I wouldn't worry
right.
about it. I would worry about trying to set some things up, like you said, to either get a deflection, do whatever. If you have to shoot from further away, that's fine, but make sure someone's at the net when you do it. That kind of thing.
Absolutely, and, set plays are a thing, Flyers. Let's
Yeah.
figure some of those out because I
Yeah, they
think
haven't
those.
scored on enough of them this year. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that would be a good strategy against the Panthers as well. In terms of goaltending, last time we saw the Panthers, Stolars was in net for them. He played in that most recent game against the Devils, so we're going to see Bob.
Yeah, the Flyers are gonna see Bob, and Bob's always gonna want to beat the Flyers. I don't think there's any any doubt about
Yeah.
that.
So, interesting. And like, I feel like Urson was sort of in a similar situation as Bob and like with the Flyers, but
He won
things are
out.
different.
Bob
I
didn't win out.
know.
That was the
I
thing.
know.
But
I
it
know.
wasn't because if we're going to play revisionist history, it was never because of Bob's play. It was because of that
No.
contract, and Ilya
Yeah.
Bryzgalov just didn't know how to play well with others, and was so threatened by Bob as the backup that they had to trade him. They didn't want to trade him.
Yep, absolutely. That is how it went. So we'll see how the Flyers do against the Panthers. We will talk about this on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, we have a listener suggested draft eligible prospect profile to talk about today in Dean Letourneau.
We
And
listened.
we did, and we will do that coming up next. It's always a struggle to find time to make healthy eating decisions, but eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready to eat meals. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon. Their ready to eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. You can skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef crafted, dietitian approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus over 60 add-ons like snacks, smoothies, breakfast, and more. You'll have a ton of nutritious and delicious options to kickstart your healthy eating habits. Factor is also flexible. Change your order up every week with as little or as much as you need, and you can pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 and use the code lockedonnhl50 to get 50% off. That's code lockedonnhl50 at factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50.
Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. So, thanks to listener Bob Alba, who suggested this draft eligible prospect in Dean Letourneau. A very interesting prospect to look at just simply because of his story. So, he's a center, turned 18 a few weeks ago. Dude is 6'7" and 210 pounds. So, big boy here.
Yep.
But I think that the reason why there's like a lot of varying opinions about him is so he's currently in a high school prep program
Yeah.
um,
Canadian
at,
Canadian
at
University.
Canadian
Yeah.
at St. Andrews College, which I think kind of equates to Shattuck St. Mary's in the U.S. in a lot of ways.
Uh Not quite, because they have older players than even
Right.
Shattuck, I believe. That's what I think.
Yes.
So, but otherwise, yeah, pretty, close.
Right, and he was drafted, or his rights were drafted in the USHL, for Sioux Falls, and so during this year's Christmas break for school, he played 2 games with Sioux Falls and then went back to St. Andrews afterwards, which is wild thing to do, but it looks like he could play for Sioux Falls next season because he is committed to Boston College, but not until the following year, so 25-26 is what we're looking at there. This is a long development path for a
Right.
guy with a lot of upside, but a long way to go.
Yeah, so my first thinking is, yeah, he's a center. So it's good and it's bad. You don't really see 6'7" centers for a lot of different reasons. You just don't. Um, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. He's got playmaking ability for sure. You could see when I was watching games that the tempo is less than other leagues that I watch, right? And that's fine. I mean,
Right.
he, he could score around the net. I think he's got a pretty decent hockey IQ. I can't get a real feel for exactly how fast he is because that league, I'd have to watch more of that league and kind of, he's not a
Right.
burner. I mean, I can tell you that, but I don't think he's bad either. I just
Right.
don't have a great feeling for where he is that way yet. Uh, he gets 348 on the power play, 132 shorthanded according to Instat. 63% of his shots get on goal. I think that's because he does shoot a lot from dirty
Mhm.
areas, which I would too. 46% on faceoffs. In that league, I would like to see him do better. So that's why I question the center part a little bit. Hits .9 per game, so clearly we'll use his size, and I believe we'll use it more in the future. Right now, a nice prospect. Now, I don't think I could rank him in the first round. Even if I have two
Yeah.
first round picks, I don't think I can do it because I feel like again, just if I'm the Flyers, I think if they pick around 17, they might be able to get a center with that pick. He's not going to be a top line center, but could be maybe second or third. That's the hope. And then I think they would go for a defenseman after because it's a defense rich draft. And I'm only saying it this way because I know how they're thinking right now. I'm doing it the way
Yeah.
they may be thinking. That doesn't mean I would do that. I'll reveal what I'll do later. But I think if I'm looking at him, even if I went with him at the second pick, yeah, I'm not seeing this guy for 5 years. And I don't think they have the appetite for that, the Flyers.
Right. And, you talked about his size and physical play, at least, from the scouts that have reported on him. They all say that he is a skill guy, that he doesn't really use
Yeah.
his
It's
size
point
to
nine.
his
Point nine means it's not a
that's
lot. That's true.
right. And so, you have to think, well, I understand he's that big, but can you teach a guy that big to use that to his advantage versus is he just wanting to be a skill guy? And will those skills dry up as he gets to more difficult leagues, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to jump to conclusions that this was the way he's always going to be because I could tell you his puck battles one and it's not good. It's 30%.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I imagine
Right.
coaches are going to prod him and get him to try and do more and be a little more physical and maybe get in the 1.5 hits per game category, And that's why I kind of left it out. I was like, I don't want to torpedo the guy because I think he's worthy of a team taken in the second round for sure. I just
Yeah, and
can't. I just don't see it in the first.
right, and I think that some of this stuff absolutely can be taught. It's just a
Yes,
matter of will he take that instruction and run with it, right? Which is why it is like a high risk, high reward situation with
it
him.
is.
But for a second round pick, sure, that's the kind of risk you might want to take.
Yeah, because again, you know, you might not see him until what is this 2024, 2028 or 9.
Yeah.
I know it's crazy to talk about those years and projections, but that's really what we're talking about.
I think 27, 28 would be generous
Right. Right.
just based on
So
when he's going to
the
college.
scouts may tell, yeah, the scouts may tell the Flyers at that moment when they're thinking about it, if you get this guy, he's probably not going to take as long if he makes it.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. But definitely an intriguing
He
prospect,
really
and
is.
with the wide swath of opinions on him and rankings on him, like, where he ends up going is going to be, I think, one of the more interesting conversations of this upcoming draft.
I agree.
So thank you, Bob, because this was a
Yeah.
really cool prospect to look into. Uh In the meantime, we will continue this series and we'll put a link to our spreadsheet in the show notes so you can keep track of all the draft eligible prospects we've been covering. And if you have your own that you want us to cover, please let us know. You can send them into us via email at lockedonflyers at Gmail. You can send us a message on Twitter at lockedonflyers, or comment over on our YouTube channel as you do with your mailbag questions. I am Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.